All right, we are recording. Justin Leslie, Will Blunderfield, welcome back to the Terrain Theory podcast.
Thanks for having us back. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah, and for the listener, this is why we're here. We are here because maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, I saw a post that Justin put up, a reel that he says has gone viral, probably his most viral piece of content yet, in which he was discussing his journey. He's on 200 plus consecutive days retaining semen. And I didn't even know that you were on that journey to begin with. The fact that you'd gotten to over 200 days without me knowing was a bit astounding. Yeah, what is it now?
247.
247. And we love hitting topics like this head on. Will, we could think of no one better to bring on, in addition to Justin, to talk about this topic than you, someone who hits these topics like head on all the time, daily. And so that's
why. Just noticing, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I can see all the sound waves on this Zencaster, everybody's sound waves except for mine. When I speak, it's just a flat line. Just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, you are
just want to make sure my vocals are being recorded.
Oh, they're being recorded, and you are anything but you're anything but flatlined, my man.
Okay, sweet. It must just be a glitch in the Zencaster program.
It is a glitch in the Zencaster program. So Justin, like, let's just hear from you how you got on this journey, and also want to know how your prostate cancer is doing.
Oh yeah, the prostate cancer, stage 4. But yeah, no, appreciate you guys having me on, and appreciate you wanting to talk about this subject. We were just chatting offline how this is definitely an important contextual thing to talk about for young men and even, older men. I mean, the reason I got into semen retention was it's just been part of the spiritual journey, where really what I've been going through. I mean, you guys interviewed me on my Pfizer whistleblower story and the whole alternative media and, blowing up James O'Keefe for going to Bohemian Grove. And since I came forward, you guys were very early on in the interview process. It's been almost 2 years now, actually. It'll be a week and a half or so to the 2-year anniversary of coming forward with my documentary project Whistleblower. And part of me was just dissociating with reality, actually. I gave up drinking like 3.5 years ago, and I openly have said on my channel on YouTube and on other podcasts recently, where I've, kind of leaned into smoking weed, actually, to, lower my frequency, but use it as a crutch to stay, sober from alcohol. And so I've been slowly removing every layer of escaping reality, essentially, on this journey since the removal of alcohol to now. And so the heaviness of my whistleblower story, I think, was also why I was, smoking. And then obviously with semen retention and, porn masturbation, that was something I was also using to escape reality. They'd kind of go hand in hand in a way. And I don't even have like a specific day where I was like, oh, like semen retention is a subject that, popped in my brain. I started to realize how that it's a tool for self-sabotage that, the elite powers call them that, they use in putting things like pornography and just social media in general, like getting that lust into young men at 15, 16 years old is about the time I think I had started going about masturbation and going through all of that, touching myself. And it's so normalized. And so how did I get to 200 days, and what inspired me to go on this journey? I just was consuming semen retention content on YouTube, actually. That's it came up into my algorithm, and I just started exploring the subject, and I just started trying to get on a streak, if it was 3 days, if it was 4 days, and then, relapses do happen with this type of thing. And I don't even like to use the word relapse anymore, because that's kind of like an addict mindset where you're like, oh, I'm going to relapse. It's more, you turn it into a lifestyle. But, I was just so consumed for 11 or so years with this type of material, and I wasn't always using porn necessarily. It's more like even just imagination. And so the context behind that is just yeah, that's pretty much it. And getting to 200 days I felt like was a milestone that should be spoken on. And so I just went on YouTube and made some short form reels, threw it on my Instagram, and Ben, you reached out. And so I'm on 247 right now. And the only reason I've kept track is because I didn't really know what day I started, and I just used this app. And to me, it's not even about the days anymore. It's more just about an accountability thing. And yeah, so that's that's my one off to start, and would love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, before Will, I want to turn it over to you. But
Yes.
before I do, Justin, are you using a semen retention app?
Yeah, I think it's called MDF or something. I'm not sponsored by them. I think it has to do with who's the owner of it.
Is it
Oh,
intended for semen retention tracking?
semen retention, or I think it can also be used for like alcohol and weed
Okay.
or other drugs.
Anything you
But
want to.
Andrew Huberman, Dr. Andrew
Oh,
Huberman
yeah, yeah.
is he's at least featured content, so he might have to do with
Okay,
it itself. He's on here twice. There's another ad with him, so
okay.
um, maybe
Um,
he's tapped into this conversation as well.
and Will, let's turn it first. Justin, we're gonna untangle a lot of that and dive into a little bit more about how you're feeling and then the motivations. Will, I think semen retention was really first put on my radar when you came onto our show, and
Okay.
we were talking a lot about just male energy, ejaculation. In fact, I think you had one of the all time classic lines on the Train Theory podcast when you spoke about men in our society eating McDonald's and jacking off all over the place. And
Yes.
I can't get the image out of my head. But you also said to
Ben,
Mike,
Ben, I have to stop you here because
yeah,
you're 100% sure my vocal is being recorded. I just don't want us to have this beautiful conversation because mine is totally flatlined. Whenever Justin speaks, he's getting these bars. You're getting these bars when you were speaking.
yeah.
I just want to, you're sure. Mine's just totally flatlined here.
I see yours on the wave.
I
So
see yours as well, Will.
yeah,
So
Okay.
yeah,
So I just wanted to make sure because I've had some issues with
when I
podcasts
when
before.
I speak too, I don't see the waves on mine. So
Okay.
yeah.
it might
Perfect.
No,
be
we
this
got you.
Zen master.
Better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely. So I guess
Anyway, keep, yeah.
yeah. And so that's all to say. I think the last thing I'll leave it with before I turn it over to you, Will, just for so you can comment. Is that you had mentioned to Mike and I, your suggestion to Mike and I at that time when you came on the podcast, given our ages, was that we are releasing our semen maybe 2-3 times a month tops. And at the
Yes.
time when you told me that is not what I was doing. And it was, it took a lot for me to like integrate that. But anyway, I just want to credit you with, pun forgiven, planting the seed around semen retention at
Thank
that
you.
time. So I want, just comment a little bit like about how you got into it, but also like, do you know anyone who's gone 247 days like Justin?
How many months is that? That's a long time. It's like 6 months,
Over
right?
6 months.
Amazing. Yeah, I actually don't know anybody who's gone that long before. Actually, there was one guy in my Kundalini yoga teacher training circle who did something like 300 days. I got into it because I was teaching regular yoga and I realized you can do all the down dogs in the world and stretch your ass off. But if you got sexual blockages and if you're not really connected to your cock and balls in a healthy way, the stretchy type of yoga is not really going to help you. Um, in terms of the semen retention, that's part of the Taoist lineage. It's also part of different tantric lineages, Kundalini yoga and stuff. They talk about holding in your seed and then doing sexual transmutation, which is what I've been teaching for the last 10 years or so. We call it sexual kung fu. And kung fu just means daily practice. The daily practice of being able to harness your sexual energy and shunt it up instead of shooting it out all the time like most guys are doing, because it takes the body so much energy to create semen. Like it can create a whole new baby. So if we're just shooting it into a Kleenex all the time on Pornhub, you're just giving your beautiful prana to the internet sex beast. And so with Justin, I'm curious, are you just doing semen retention? Are you also, do you have some kind of like testicle breathing practice or something, to breathe the energy up?
I've done that, but being with how busy my life has been, I kind of just I do more of it's called yoga nidra meditations that I'll it's not really breath work. I do practice breath work twice a week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and we do breath holds and stuff. So there's there that's where the energy will flow for me, but I don't necessarily set like a sexual energy flow intention. I more or less just acknowledge that I'm retaining this energy and it has to go somewhere. And so I'm always just trying to be as productive as possible,
Nice.
creating and or studying things and going about my life
That's
productively.
really great. That's what I did when I was doing longer stretches of semen retention. I became a marathon runner. I ran like 4 marathons, and
Wow.
I'd be able to run from like downtown Vancouver up to Grouse Mountain, up the Grouse Grind, and back. Like it's crazy the amount of energy that you can get when you do semen retention. And I totally agree. It's like one way to transmute the energy is through sport and reading and keeping yourself busy for sure. Yeah.
Will, do you think it's essential that as a person is practicing semen retention that they also are doing this transmutation, or do you think that there's enough to just holding on to it, like that you are just retaining your chi and your vitality, and that can be enough for people?
I think it depends on how connected to your scrotum you are. Like if you're disconnected from your balls and then you do semen retention, what we find is sometimes the glandular system atrophies after about 2 months, and then you're even more disconnected and your penis kind of shrinks and your balls kind of shunt up. This is like what happened to the guy in the Kundalini yoga. Because in Kundalini yoga, it's very like anti-sex, even though Yogi Bhajan was having sex with everybody. So there's like this repression, and it's like I think if you're connected to yourself and the yoga nidra practice, you're in your body, and you're being told in the yoga nidra practice to focus on your low belly, and your loins. You're developing your self sensory system and the connectivity between your loins and the rest of your system. I think you're fine. But a lot of guys, I think, I don't recommend long stretches of semen retention if they don't have some kind of body based sensory practice to disperse some of that energy into the rest of their system or into weightlifting or something like that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. No, it does. I mean, yeah, I'd say the last piece into, some sort of exercise or weightlifting there, that is a sort of transmutation or a channeling of the energy. The body practice speaks to just like in touch with your body in general. But at the beginning, you were very specific and you said a connection to that part of your, the reproductive organs and the cock and balls, as you would say, like your scrotum.
Yes.
That's you tell me if I'm wrong, but you would argue that's really critical.
I think it's huge because a lot of guys, when you focus on your nuts, like we can all do it right now, when you focus on your scrotum, what do you feel? Some guys feel nothing. Some guys feel like a tingle or a weightiness,
A heat.
a heat. Nice. What do you
Yeah, I was
feel,
gonna say
Justin?
heat or like some. I just I just feel a force of some sort.
Yeah,
Nice.
well,
That's a
okay.
good sign. I
Yeah.
feel like Justin, you're connected to your cock and balls. You're not one of those who's like not even thinking about it and cut off and then your balls are shrinking. No, your balls are getting more plumped through this technology.
Yeah, for everything works. We'll put that
Everything
on.
everything works well. uh, how about Mike?
Yeah, I would say there's a benevolent vibration.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's a good way to put it.
yeah,
So, like, for example, you can work out and be disconnected from your nuts and feel nothing, like testicles just totally wasted through masturbation and self hate and, all this cultural shaming around the loins. Like, we've been told not to play with our balls, and we're all masturbating as kids, and we're doing it so quickly and in shame because we don't want to get caught. Or you can really, I call it the wild man activation. Before you work out, take the energy of nature in your hands and I growl it into your scrotal sac and just really charge yourself up. Feel that tingling sensation, and then get into the gym and imagine that your testicles are like water wheels or turbines of vitality, and they're shunting some of this powerful prana up into your muscles to help you lift heavier weights. It's like allow the tingling sensation to happen and allow some grunts and growls to occur, because that can also transmute your sexual energy through voice while you're lifting weights. And what I find is, A, it's more enjoyable, it's more primal, and you lift heavier.
Amen.
It's like a pre-workout, but it's
Amen.
free.
Justin, go ahead and jump in.
I just want to jump in and say that, yeah, the whole thing with the gym and working out has been a huge thing for me that I've noticed. Like when I was not retaining, I hit a plateau in the gym in regards to just my overall weight, I think my physique in general, and just how I was feeling in the gym and performance wise. I was hitting a plateau. And since retaining past like 50 days, I felt like just the testosterone and everything else just inside me, the vitalistic energy, giving me that extra oomph, like being able to do like 100-pound dumbbells on an inclined bench. I've never even thought of trying that before. And just, I was feeling it one day, and, I did it for over 10 reps, like 2 weeks ago. And I
Nice.
attribute a lot of my gains recently to semen retention. And, I've being in this program that I'm in, people are like I'm catching looks and by guys, girls, and they compliment me, and I'm just like, wow, like I'm just I'm holding my energy and don't really get into anybody else's business. And like the head trainer at the gym that I'm at, he came over to me, he's like, damn, you're looking huge. So I find it interesting that Will brought this up, because for me, it's been using the gym as a way to outsource this energy, and can build a physique that I'm proud of, as well as also just essentially pour in to something that I'm proud of. And I'm losing my train of thought, honestly.
Oh, that all makes sense.
But yeah, it's using the gym is also like a spiritual thing to me.
Yes.
Although my message has been about more or less conquering the physical and getting through to the spiritual. And so like the whole thing about retention to me has been like not splurging on immediate release and immediate feelings of dopamine, or whatever dopamine technically is. I'm like dissolving whatever these things, even called hormones. I don't know if you guys have seen Daniel Roytos talk about hormones recently, but he's sparked my mindset on like it almost everything is fake at this point. And like to me it's just a cause and effect reaction of like feeling good. And so of course I feel good at the gym, like I'm feeling great when I work out, and I feel great after the fact. But it's it's not, to me it's not self pleasure, it's more discipline and pouring into that. And not even doing it for the looks necessarily. If you get what I'm trying to put it into context. But it's just a way that I pour into myself, at this point in time. And I feel like I'll be able to even transcend the gym and like the need to necessarily be obsessed with working out. But you know the Bible talks about how the body itself is a temple, and we have to treat our bodies well. And so, with the gift that God gave us, which is our body, I feel like if you are in shape, you are showing gratitude towards God, and so there's a give and take with it all.
Yeah, well, it's
I
about
love that.
it's about, trying to be the best version of yourself that you can be, and in your mind, that goal is, I wanna be as strong as I can be and push this physical vessel to its limits every day, better yourself one day. And whereas ejaculation, you're just giving this energy away, it doesn't necessarily improve yourself in any way. As Will said, you're giving your sexual energy to the internet porn beast, which is not a great use of your energy. You are pouring your energy into self improvement, self betterment, and honoring this physical temple. I can't think of any better motivation than that. So yeah, kudos to you. And if this semen retention journey is only helping you, which clearly it seems like it is, this is a factor. There's a factor at play here. If you're pressing 100-pound dumbbells, you've never done that before, now you are. And the semen retention piece is like one, just part of that, like training the willpower and the discipline which is what I found was it felt really good to abstain like another day. It was like I conquered that day, and I conquered that bad habit and that bad wiring and that temptation. And every
Yeah.
day you can tack on, you're like, what else can I do? And then you
Well, and it's also it's like increasing consciousness like inch by inch every single day too. Like every Ben, I've consumed a lot of semen retention content, and this one guy, Rin, that I've listened to recently, he said that I'm literally afraid to release at this point. And I resonate with that because I've just become so coherent and like of a sound mind that I've conquered lust from my perspective. And yes, I've only hit 250 days. And this is something that, I feel like our ancestors almost laugh at. But the reality is we live in this fallen world where a lot of people are absolutely conquered by lust. And it's become so normalized that it's essentially insane to the common man. And so, yeah, that's just my thought on the whole thing. Like it's, it's pretty crazy to go about it like this. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, back to you.
No, Mike, I want you to jump in too, because there is this like spiritual and pineal gland activation and lunar return aspect to a little bit of this that I know you're sort of barking up those trees.
Yeah, I've been observing my lunar return um, in the effort to preserve the sacred secretion, in which those days I observe an alkaline diet and I abstain from sex. Um, that has been worked well for me because it's kind of on a schedule. It's once a month, and I can really hone in on that week and abstain. And I'm married, and it's like it's very clear between me and my partner that it's not just like ongoing. It's just a specific week, which I think is useful. But that is a question I have. Like Justin, I suspect you're single. Like is that's and Ben, you could speak to this too because I know that you were practicing semen retention when you first connected with your now partner. It, it's maybe an obvious question, but is it easier being single to work this practice?
I would say absolutely. And I think it's all about, think of relationships as a fulfilling or entertainment. Are you seeking the woman for sex only, like the physical attraction, which of course, when I still fully intend to settle down with a woman and get married and I want to have kids, but I'm pulling the sex off the table at least initially, like that's my intention with relationships in general. And so integrating to me, Mike, like integrating into society and wanting to date again is a bit difficult actually because I've been single for a long time based off of my whole whistleblower journey to now like I'm in this doctorate program. It's intense, and so to me a relationship, if it's not the one, it's a distraction. And so I've just been pouring into myself, and so I feel like God will show me the right woman when the time comes, but I'm not necessarily pouring energy into what people in the semen retention community call it edging, where you like look at women and just lust over women just by looking at them. And it's impossible to fully like not edge from my perspective, where if you see an attractive girl, you're going to acknowledge that you're attracted to her. But I do my best to not edge, meaning like think of her in a lustful way and look at her for who she is, which is a beautiful creature created by God who is meant to facilitate bringing life into this world.
Yeah, Will, where does just lustfulness that you're not acting upon necessarily like fit into your worldview and some of the things that you're practicing and also preaching?
Yeah, for sure. I first want to say, Justin, I'm so like proud of you for speaking up and everything you've done. You're a huge inspiration to me, as are all of you guys. So yeah, just want to thank you for being you and being brave and having the balls to bring authenticity and truth to the planet. So thank
Thank
you for
you.
that.
Appreciate you. You as well.
Thank you. And do you find, like I find when I do semen retention, I'm all the more brave to do that? You find that
Yeah.
too?
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. It keeps me on the divine axis, we'll call it. Just
Nice.
keeps me on that narrow path of, doing what I feel is right versus falling into sin, falling into lust, whatever you want to call it, like falling into a lower frequency. It's not what I'm about.
Yes.
I'm done with that. I've seen too much.
Yeah. And what I find is like the more juicy and powerful and anchored we feel as men, the less lustful we are because we already feel complete and whole within ourselves. And there's an author named David Data. He wrote a book called Way of the Superior Man, also the Enlightened Sex Manual. And he talks about when you're doing semen retention, it's not lustful, but if you notice a beautiful woman on the street, you just appreciate her for who she is and her beautiful yin life giving energy. And you can just it, absorb some of her extra yin energy into your system, like on the inhale, just very subtly, and then send some of your extra yang energy to her, just like very, so it's not like vampiric. So that's just like an interesting thing. He says it's not lustful, it's like more like appreciation. So that's something that came to mind.
No, I love that. I mean, a nice little nod of the head to one another. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I see you, but you're not
Mm-hmm.
an
Mm-hmm.
object. I see you. I don't objectify you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
I love that. I love that sentiment. Um, Justin, so you mentioned that you fear the release. I, I, uh, I can't say I fully empathize because I've never been 250 days. I think the longest I did was like a month or something. Maybe it's a little more than that. Um, but it's an inevitability, right?
Yeah.
It's an inevitability. Do you feel, or perhaps even like fear that you might miss that great opportunity or calling because of the fear of the release? Or are you open to it? Like, I will know the time is now.
I feel like I'm putting it in God's hands
Okay.
and that there's going to be signs to like when the right woman is in front of me, I'm going to jump on it. But I see what you're saying, Ben. Like I don't necessarily want to put myself in a corner either and be like, "Oh, like I'll never have sex again" type stuff. It's not necessarily like that, but I also, from going through college and, in this generation, like I've done that. Like I was a frat star. Call them a frat star. Like that's what I did. And so, I was promiscuous. I was, drinking too much, doing too many things that I'm not proud of. And so I am removed myself like I was saying early on, like just removing all these layers of pleasure that I don't see are useful. And so I think that, like I said, the time will come to have a relationship with the right woman and create life with this seed that I'm retaining. And I mentioned earlier where it's been difficult for me to necessarily integrate back into the dating world because I feel like I'm just, I'm very conscious. And when you become conscious of, we'll call it like you have a higher BS meter basically. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I have a high BS meter and I just want to weed out the girls that are in things for the wrong reason and that are going to lust over me as well and want to use sex in the relationship almost as a weapon or like let's take that off the table and make sure that our brains are at the same level frequency to where this is going to last and be a forever type thing. It's like a soulmate obviously. And so I'm not in a rush to get into that. And so I can acknowledge that and have essentially entered that celibacy mindset of it's all off the table. I'm not even really available in the dating world right now unless there's that sign. And I feel like once I'm through this chiropractic degree and everything, or closer on towards the end, I might open up more towards it. But I'm not trying to come across as closed minded. It's just where I'm at right now. Like I'm on this journey and just listening to what, God's telling me to do. And right now I just need to focus on myself and focus on tasks at hand. And I feel like a relationship right now is not suited for me because I'm still self-improving. I have things that I need to get better at, and make sure that I'm fully organized and, can take care of myself before I take care of someone else, essentially.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. No, there's a lot of phrases that would be used to describe a person like you: squared away, dialed, you got your priorities straight. Like, just, yeah, credit to you. I echo what Will said. Yeah. Um, I'll share just a little bit about my journey into semen retention, but it was really before that. I was married in 2015, had a kid at 2016. We separated, was it 2020, and we were separate. It was like the world's longest divorce process, but in the 4 years that we were separated and heading towards divorce, 4 or 5 years actually, I was completely celibate. I didn't date. I didn't. I was a single dad with custody half the time of my kid, my 4-year-old, and I was just focused. And that was the same time COVID hit, and the same time Mike and I started this podcast, the same time I get exposed to the ideas of terrain and no virus, and I just took dating off the map completely. I did not go on a single date. I did not want to meet a single person. I was on 0 dating apps. Now I was celibate, but I was not retaining semen. So I was definitely falling victim to the temptations of the, not, I wouldn't say like the porn beast, but we all have our own ways in our imaginations. I think it was after I moved to New Hampshire, my ex had moved on. She was in a relationship. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I have done a lot of work on myself. I've reflected on where that relationship and that marriage, went wrong. I've tried to really reflect on the things that maybe I, didn't bring to the table, brought to the table that were harmful or didn't help. And I think I'm at a place now to maybe dive back in. And I did get on a dating app like you, Justin. This is like this is post COVID. I'm at where I'm at. Uh, I couldn't connect with anybody. Like, first of all, I'm not the type of person to really connect through a dating app. It's just the way I am. But the BS meter was, also on overdrive. I didn't meet a single person, didn't meet up for a single date. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to do dating app. I just shut that down and I decided I'm going to retain semen. And around that same time, it was during the summer, a year and a half ago, I started barefoot hiking. So New Hampshire has 48 4,000 footers, and they're sort of famous in that people try to knock them out. And I was like, I'm going to do it barefoot. And it's at the same time I'm retaining semen. I'm like I'm up there on the trails, like late spring, early summer, and there's still snow up there, and I'm trotting around in my bare feet, and people are like, what the hell are you doing? And it didn't to me, it was like, I'm just grounded. I'm connected. I'm trying to integrate all these things I've learned through terrain. I'm retaining semen. I felt that same like magnetism, Justin, where I just started noticing like people, just like it was like I was like attracting people who were very open-minded, wanted to have conversations, and who mirrored the kind of energy that I was bringing to the world, which was just an open-mindedness and a desire to like meet and connect on a human level. And I decided that I was going to use this semen retention to call a partner into my life. Like, this was very clearly an intention for myself, because I felt like I had gotten to a place where I knew myself much better. I knew who I was as a partner, who I could show up as a partner. I knew I did not want to be alone. I knew that for a fact. Like, I didn't want to be a single dad the rest of my life. And there was a woman in my community who had separated, was divorced, and I knew her, I knew of her. But there was never any connection there. And just happenstance, we sort of had a conversation for the first time since knowing her over like 2 years, a conversation that lasted longer than 15 minutes, just her and I, and just realized like, oh my God, we have like everything in common. And we have this like so much like everything in common. And also, she's maybe one of the smartest people I know, one of the most capable people I know. And we're like, well, okay, you're divorced. I'm separated, about to be divorced. Like, should we start hanging out? And that was it. that's it. We now we live together. We just had a child together, a 2-month-old daughter, and
Nice.
she is my life partner. Like without question, I will never meet that. This is it. This I know it for a fact. She is everything. We meet each other where we're at. We make ourselves like better people. I'm not still retaining semen. Clearly, I've got a 2-month-old child. Just as sort of a fun fact, this is what happens when you do have sex and you don't wear a condom and you don't retain your semen. Children are a side effect. Babies
Correct.
are a side effect, but I credit almost wholly. I credit the semen retention for that calling my life partner into my life. And I'm older. I'm divorced. I've already, been through it. I think a lot of people would just be like, fuck it. I'm never going to meet that person. I'm just going to be a single dad the rest of my life and, focus on myself. Uh, and
You look like more testosterone laden now than when I first saw you.
you
Like,
think so? Or are you just saying you blowing smoke
no,
up my ass, Will?
no, you literally look more manly and like you're filled with more testosterone and vim and vigor.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that's,
Like the shape of your face and your shoulders. Yeah,
yeah.
it's really cool.
I appreciate that, Will. I think I've just been, I think part of it is becoming the man of the house again. As a single dad, I just got my kid half the time. You're just a single dad. All of a sudden, you're the man of the house. There's like my partner brings 2 children with her, so now half the time we got 4 kids, and then we've got the daughter like full time. You're the man of the house. It's like you're fulfilling a role, and stepping into that again feels really good and feels really natural. And then we also have a wonderful balance in our relationship of the masculine and the feminine, and I think that's a big part of it. Will, like when you have a partner who reveres that, who sees it, who understands the value of it, you are more inclined to be like, I'm gonna step into this role. I'm gonna be that person. That's
Mhm.
who I want to wake up as. That's who I want to fall asleep as. But
I love that.
I appreciate that, Will. I mean, honestly,
Mhm.
again, Will, I cannot credit you enough for just planting that seed of semen retention. And it was just in my head, like, this is a path. This is a thing that needs to happen. And I look at you in the way that you live. I mean, you are a magnet, an absolute magnet, and you are attracting so many people to what you do, and you have opened up the eyes of so many people to revere this, to destigmatize all this conversation around sex and semen and ejaculation and masturbation, male bonding. You've destigmatized it, and you walk that truth every day. Like, you are a fucking inspiration, and you can
Thank
see it.
you.
You can just see it, how many people, their eyes are drawn to it. Yes, you have like the haters, but I think those people just operate out of a place of fear and misunderstanding. I bet half those people come around eventually. They half of them do.
Totally.
But anyway,
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, that means a
I
lot. And
saw it right before my eyes. I have a teenager who's now 18, but a couple of years ago he was like 16. Him and a couple of his friends stumbled on some of your content, Will. And of course, as teenagers, like, oh my God, this fucking guy. Do you know this guy? And he was always talking about his cock and balls. And, they're teenagers. So they just like get a kick out of it. And I was like, yeah, he's been on my podcast, and their jaws hit the floor. But that was the perfect gateway for me to be like, you should listen to this podcast. And they did. And, they didn't reveal too much, but I could just see the gears spinning in their mind. I could see, because it was almost like the prurient interest is what got them into, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is a guy who talks about dicks. And so, but he also talks about virology and relationships and masculinity and friendship. And, they got so much more than they bargained for. But that's a beautiful thing about what you do, because you just let it fly and it attracts all sorts of people. I mean, it came
thank you.
right into my own home.
Eh, Thanks, man. No, that's great to hear. And a lot of people think, like, are you for real? Like when people stop me on the street, like, can I get a picture? Like, can I ask you though, like, are you like, is this a bit or is this really who you are? Even Joe Rogan was like, to Tom Segura, he's like, you had that like
Yeah.
hummus cannon nutty guy on. Like, is he for real?
Right.
Is he just trying to do this to get more cock? I'm like, do you really think me talking about virology and like being authentic is going to get me more action? No. I'm, no.
Yeah.
Uh, but I've had to work around certain elements of censorship in the algorithm. Like when we were talking about COVID stuff, of course, we were getting our accounts deleted. Like I'm on my 10th Instagram account, my third YouTube account, da 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 da. So I've had to ramp up the sort of irreverent comedy aspect of it. Like instead of saying penis
Right.
on social media, I call it the hummus cannon,
Right.
which gets more views, it goes more viral. And then so the downside maybe is some people think that it's a bit,
Right.
but the people who are meant to find it, and then I don't get my accounts deleted as often. Whereas if I said penis and I spoke in a more sort of clinical way, the robots just delete all your shit. So yeah, I've had to become more irreverent and creative with my terminology because of the online censorship.
It's fascinating. I used to think, it's funny in hindsight, I see it as more something that grew out of immaturity. But um, I used to think I was kind of clever because I could see the sexual repression in our society so clearly, and I thought I wanted to be a force that kind of blew the whistle on that energy. And in doing so, I think I became over sexualized. To In my mind, I thought I was balancing the scale, but that's what I love about this conversation today is that we're talking about this subject that is so stigmatized, with dare I say a fair amount of maturity, and I think that's where it needs to be met.
Totally, totally. And when people come, like when they hear this podcast or when they come to classes and stuff, they see like I don't call it the hummus cannon when I'm teaching.
Sure,
I
right.
call it the penis. Oh, so then like, oh my God, there's like a lot more to this. It's just the way to get it out has been through comedy. And people like Tom Segura, they used to like kind of make fun of me and my practices, like drinking urine and stuff. And then Tom became more interested in wellness and he started to work out at the gym and take better care of himself. And then all of a sudden it went from making fun of these practices to being interested to flying me down first class to talk about it.
Wild.
So that just taught me you just hold the fort and do what you know to be true and life-giving. Teach what you need, and then it will resonate with other people like you who could maybe benefit from these types of practices and life ways.
Yeah, it's clear that's exactly what you're doing. You're offering a different path for the male out there, is what you're doing.
Mm,
A badly needed alternative path. And my
thank
question
you.
to you, Will, is how would you get this information into the hands of younger kids, like Mike's 16-year-old son? Like that's really when this stuff needs to be taught, is at that young age, like uh, puberty, right?
Hmm. I mean, I would say like read the book like The Multi-Orgasmic Man by my teacher Montauk Chia. That could be like really good reading for young people to plant the seed. And I think as we become more sexually liberated as a culture, then being able to read those types of books at younger ages is more kosher and appropriate. But yeah, I think it is important to learn that type of stuff because in sex education, it's all just about like fear of microbes and like don't have sex,
Correct. Yeah.
Whereas if we could teach people that it's sacred, and there's an energy exchange and being mindful and semen retention, I think that would be a far better sex education class.
Yeah, it's funny that the phrase sexual liberation to me feels a little bit loaded, and it feels more like
Hmm.
everyone's just going to have sex, where it's not. It's really like destigmatizing the conversation and adding more reverence, right? Can we talk about this openly? Can we be reverential around this topic and also,
Yeah, it's not just like fucking anybody randomly.
right?
Like not the sexual revolution of the 60s, more like an erotic appreciation and seeing sexual energy as sacred once more, like many of our ancestral lineages used to before sort of the matrix took over, before the Abrahamic religions. Like I'm thinking of like certain stone circles up in northern Scotland and certain rituals that may have happened there that involved an erotic element and fertility rites and rituals and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Justin.
I just wanted to jump in and to tie it into terrain, which is what your guys' podcast is all about. People might be asking, well, then what's up with STIs? What's up with STDs? How do those happen? And from my perspective, based off of having conversations with like Dr. Mary Zell Arce and Jordan Grant, and just people in the terrain camp, it's our body is signaling to us what you are doing is foul, and to Will, what you're touching on, how this is just, it's a sacred practice that needs to be kept between one man and one woman, and you shouldn't be fornicating with like 4 or 5 women or men at the same time. I think that's where the body is reacting, because it's sensing the biofields, it's sensing that energy coming from someone is sleeping around, and then that brings your frequency down. You're not keeping it sacred. You're intermingling biofields essentially, and souls, having soul ties with 4 or 5, 6 other people at once potentially. Like that's what happens in college. People sleep with numerous amounts of people, sometimes more than on two hands. And so that exchange of energy, it doesn't make it sacred anymore, and it depletes you, and then your body is showing you you need to stop. And so that's what herpes could be, that's what warts could be, that's what chlamydia, gonorrhea, insert here, is ultimately what it could be a sign of, from what I've seen and on the terrain side of things.
Yeah, totally. That ties into German New Medicine, like, you know, feeling attacked or feeling soiled conflict can manifest as herpes, or having certain spots on the penis, on the more external tissues. That could be like a fear of separation, having separated, or wanting to separate sexually from somebody. Yeah, and the more partners you have, the higher the chances of you experiencing a conflict shock, and then it going into healing, and getting these symptoms of chlamydia, gonorrhea, all these things that the Matrix labels are really just probably healing phases of these conflicts from people putting too many hummus cannons in their vaginas.
Well, I've also heard that it could uh, be the body simply detoxing to prepare for having a life partner.
Mm, that could be a way to look at
I
it.
think it was maybe Tom Cowan who suggested that, or like early on, like 2021, 2022. But I don't know. The energetic piece of it, we don't have the tools to measure that. So
Mm-hmm.
at best, we are kind of guessing. What we know is that the virus has never been proven to exist, right? So we can take that off the table and then start to ask interesting questions about alternative explanations, like you two just put forward.
Totally. And I think a lot of people think, or we've been trained through porn and society to think, that the only way to be intimate with somebody, or the ultimate goal, is penetration. But there's so many diverse ways to connect with other humans. And I think a lot of men who want to have lots and lots and lots of sex with other men, sometimes they're actually just looking for platonic comfort, and they're not getting it. And then it kind of like squirts out in ways that don't serve. Or I'm thinking also college hazing rituals, like my buddy said there was a certain ritual where they had to get naked, get in a circle in the hockey change room, and stimulate their penises, and then shoot their cum onto a cookie. And like the last guy who came had to eat the cum filled cookie, and just all these things. And usually they're alcohol fueled, right? So there's like demonic energies coming in and stuff. So I think things can go sideways when we shame sexual energy and think that it has to be this dark, intense thing, when really, like, you can do some eye gazing. Maybe you just want to do eye gazing, or maybe you just want to hug your bro for 30 seconds, like a full body hug. Or maybe you just want to like watch a movie with your bro and cuddle, like there's all these things that I think guys actually really want to do. Like my mom always said, before you're intimate with somebody, get to know them. Before you just like have sex with somebody, get to know them. And I just think a lot of guys are craving this sort of touch from men and women. And so I think a huge piece of this is like destigmatizing same-sex bonding, and also helping men realize that the desire to like hug your bro is a good thing, and it's life-giving, and you don't have to like make it violent. Like I notice a lot of men, when they hug each other, they're scared that they might just be a little bit gay, so they like do it really quickly, and they like hit each other on the
Oh
back,
yeah.
instead of just like relaxing into the hug and letting the oxytocin and the testosterone go up, and the cortisol and the adrenaline go down. They don't give themselves the opportunity, that gift of that that balance, maybe not hormones, but whatever's going on in the body. um, yeah, I think that kind of laying the groundwork of us being human and bonding is more important than all the sex that's kind of happening, and tying people's souls together in ways that aren't the most life giving, as Justin was alluding to.
Yeah, this is all wrapped up in this larger mission, I suppose, Will, of like sexual liberation, but this adding the reverence back to what is sexual or connection. I mean, clearly, like men in our society are suffering from a crisis of loneliness and disconnection, and this is another area that you are offering men a path forward to better connection and community. And you also, you refuse to label it. You will
Yeah, no
not put you
labels.
will you will not put that label on it, which I think is probably what keeps a lot of men from going down that path, is they are afraid of being labeled, right? They fear the gay in them, right? What if I'm gay? um and they are denying themselves that platonic connection to other men, which, as you point out, has been so crucial to strong male societies across human history.
Totally. And nudity, I think a great way to keep men cut off from their power is to make them feel like they're not attractive, and to cut them off from their dicks and balls so that they don't have to put a literal cage around them. Whereas in many ancient warrior cultures, they would be training together naked. Even the word gymnasium, the root word is gymnos, which means a place of male undress. And the dudes would work out in these open air spaces with four walls, and there were these statues of naked Greek gods to inspire them. And they'd just be naked working out. The actors acted naked. In the Olympics, it was always done naked,
Hmm.
all just naked men, and only men were allowed to watch the Olympics. So it was just like all these dudes just looking at naked bodies all the time, and they had wives as well. But they totally embraced the whole bro bonding proclivity, and
Yeah.
it wasn't considered weird or shameful to be naked around other men.
Yeah, you didn't have the labels. Let's bring it
Yeah, no
let's
labels.
let's bring it back to terrain for a second and dispel one of the long-standing myths surrounding retention and ejaculation, and that is that if you retain for too long, you increase your risk of prostate cancer, which was the flippant remark I made at the start there. Justin, I know you've had to address this, right? You've had folks who've commented on your video around the 200 days consecutively, like, "Hey, you're going to be in danger here. You're actually going to hurt yourself."
Yeah, I haven't. I'll go out there and say I haven't actually read the research papers that say you're going to get prostate cancer if you retain, but I just feel it's such a myth, and it's it's a window into the fear-based propaganda that is peer-based research, that are these research articles. It's the so-called evidence of peer review. They say, oh, we've isolated this so and so virus, we've isolated COVID, and then people will pull that up and show you, oh, look, this is real. It's all just surface level nonsense that's on the internet technically, and it's easy to use in your logically fallacious argument, is my perspective. Where, I mean, I'm not omniscient, so I can't look at my prostate through myself, but I feel great, and I don't feel like anything bad is happening, and I'm not gonna pour into that negative energy of, oh, I'm gonna get prostate cancer if I don't release this. And I mean, from the perspective of why some people who don't release may get prostate cancer versus those that do, I mean, a lot of people who do release are potentially in better, the people who have more sex are probably in better shape and are probably
Yeah.
have better health outcomes. And so maybe if you're having more sex and releasing more, you're not going to get prostate cancer, versus maybe if you're not that healthy and, aren't releasing as much, maybe you are. But that's
Totally.
just a perspective.
And all these studies that they reference are correlative. And the first thing you learn in statistics at university is correlation doesn't imply causation. So as Justin was alluding to, there could be other factors that explain the phenomenon.
Yeah,
Might have nothing to do with frequent ejaculation.
that was the conclusion of the research I did on that specific link, is that any connection between like higher ejaculation frequency to like a lower prostate cancer risk was just correlative. It was not causative. That's never been established. So it does just seem to be like one of these fears that gets trotted out, and it self
And in the
perpetuates.
Tao, it's the pulsing of the musculature around the prostate that's the healthy aspect of releasing your semen. But you can get that pulse just by doing pelvic floor exercises.
Mm,
So in our classes, we squeeze and release the anus and the perineum 9 times, and we do certain things to massage the perineum because it's the external pressure point for the prostate gland. And in some of the advanced classes, we even use people call them sex toys, but I call them a core channel massage wand. So we use sacred gemstones and we stick them up our anuses and massage the prostate that way. And even like Troy Casey, one of my mentors, certified health nut, he had like a nurse stimulate his prostate. So there's so many different ways to take care of your prostate that involve that pulsing or massaging, apart from just ejaculating. Because when you ejaculate, you get a little bit of a massage, but you can do it in other ways as well. And I think that could be a piece as to why, if it's true that ejaculation is somehow lowering prostate cancer, it could be because of that pulsing and massaging of the prostate.
got it. Yeah, that's good to know. Will, what do you know about like the other side of the argument that semen retention increases testosterone?
Mm. Well, I mean, it's just physics. If you're shooting out your cum, like your testicles make 98% of your testosterone as a man, 2% produced by the adrenals. So if you're just constantly coming, then there's just less testosterone in your nuts to shunt up to the rest of your system. In terms of the science, there's not much research that I've come across. But how do you feel? Like, look at Justin can now lift. Justin can now lift far heavier weights for far longer in the gym. When I was doing long stretches of semen retention, I could run fucking crazy marathons in my earth running sandals. Like, it was so easy. So just like try it and see if it works for you, because it's worked for us.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think
For sure.
yeah,
One thing
go ahead.
that came to mind when Will was just talking is there's a baseline that most people are not able to reach when it comes to this concept of retaining. The modern man will put, say, 95 to maybe even 99%. There's a lot of people who are addicted to releasing, and they won't even go 2 days, they won't even go 3 days without being able to release because they've been under this mind control. Is what it's, to me, it's mind control where you're just told that, oh, you should just jack off before going to bed if you can't go to bed. So that is a huge seed that has been planted from the mainstream, that like, oh, you should just release every night, and so it depletes you, and then boom, you sleep a good 8 hours, and then that's what makes you tired, is releasing. So to touch on what I'm saying about the baseline is, there's I feel like baseline should be like 3 days. Like, you should try and get to 3 days and see how you feel then, and then once you reach that threshold, then you're like, oh wait, maybe I should go to 4 days because I'm actually feeling this energy buildup. You're reaching a baseline of testosterone or whatever you want to call it, where that vital energy is actually flowing through you again and flowing through your balls, and you
Mm-hmm.
send it up and put it somewhere, versus just being completely depleted. You're depleted for days 1, 2, and probably up to 3, is how I feel about it, and then it just becomes exponential. And to get back to the point of like why I was saying I feel like I'm scared to release at this point, is because I feel like the consequences of once you get to a certain level, it's almost exponentially worse for you too. Is how I feel about it. Like, the last time I released, I was on a 50-day streak, and I released and I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do this ever again. And it's because I immediately just felt this guilt and this grief and this like, wow, I fell into this trap one more time. And so, you know, my journey has been involved with, reading the coiled serpent and reading the Bible and just consuming content on retention to also stay on the journey. So yeah, the whole baseline metaphor to me makes a lot of sense, and it's something that I keep in the back of my mind for not wanting to fall back into that lower frequency trap. And before I land the plane, if I were to release in the future, I feel like the consciousness and everything that's been elevated from retaining is there, but it's almost like a cope as well to like I don't have a reason to release, and to me it's like unless I'm going to have a baby, like I'm going to keep my energy that God gave me because I need to be productive and use it for productive and positive things. And so
Mm.
I'll land the plane there and see what you guys feel about the whole baseline thing and just where.
And Justin, you seem like you're often very much in a parasympathetic nervous system state. And most men are in a sympathetic nervous system state, which is associated with needing to ejaculate. So I
Well,
would say Justin's a great example. If you want to do longer stretches, really cultivate the yoga nidra and things that keep you in that parasympathetic state. It makes it far easier to hold in your seed for longer.
I feel like it's easier to tap into the parasympathetic when you are retaining, where if your environment is high sympathetic, like Will, to touch on what you're saying, I'm not sure how familiar you are with my background of like being a Pfizer whistleblower in Bohemian Grove, exposing James O'Keefe. Like I was doing this undercover investigative journalism where that is such a high sympathetic state. And so like when I was in that world, of the alternative media and like dealing with like decoding propaganda basically in real time, I was so high sympathetic that I was releasing. I was depleted because I couldn't even get into a parasympathetic state until I depleted
So you
myself.
shot it out, right?
So I'm glad you brought that up because I find it a way to getting into that parasympathetic too. Um,
Yes, it's almost like you reach a threshold, as you've been talking about, and then it's you get into that period. Because I think some guys are so addicted to ejaculation, you know, initially they kind of get scared, or maybe their nervous system gets activated at the idea of retaining longer. But you kind of just allow yourself to go through that, and then you're like, oh wow, it's actually a lot more parasympathetic to hold in my seed.
It's
I
almost
have to pee. I'll be right
there
back.
you go.
Gonna piss like a racehorse.
What what are the odds that he's going to drink that pee?
coin flip.
Probably yeah, coin flip. Okay. Yeah, Justin, what I find fascinating about your journey is that it does seem really tied up with your Christian mindset, right? Like you're very much informed by your alignment with God
Yeah.
through Christ, and I wonder what what that text, the Bible, what those teachings have taught you about semen retention, and maybe not that specifically, but maybe what it stands for, what it symbolizes.
Well, to me, it's more or less embracing a relationship with Jesus and Christ and acknowledging his story of just hating sin, and what sin represents. And to me, it's not even like the label of Christian necessarily, because I'll be one of the first to acknowledge that the modern day church is not informed, and people that are churchgoers are not exactly Christ-like. And so, you know, I
Hello.
do. Hello. We're touching on Christianity and everything and how all that ties into this. And Ben, to answer your question, I mean, I haven't even read the Bible front to back. It's not like I'm like balls deep per se. And in that, but I've used embracing my relationship with Jesus and becoming born again. It's been part of this walk actually, where I went through with a water baptism, and the start of my retention journey, I was baptized by the Holy Spirit by one of my friends, and just since embracing a relationship with Christ, it's put me even further onto that divine path, that divine access of this is how I need to be living, and not falling into that lower frequency state. And, I actually wrote down some Bible verses to share. Proverbs 6:32, he who commits sexual immorality lacks sense. He who does it, or I didn't write the whole thing. Flee 1 Corinthians 6:18-20. Flee sexual immorality. Your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. You are not your own. Glorify God in your body. That's a powerful one where, like I said, it's the Holy Spirit. And lusting is a special sin that I feel God hates the most. Or I don't know, besides killing somebody. It's one of the worst sins that you can do because you're sinning on your body. You're sinning against yourself, and you can control that. And so unless you have the intention of creating a child, or you're married and you're doing it with intention, then what are you doing with yourself? And why are you playing with yourself? Why are you sinning against yourself to create this hit of dopamine, this hit of, it's basically a drug. It's a drug that your body is able to do. And so it's one of the most powerful drugs in the world. That and caffeine and alcohol and weed, like, they're glanced over on certain subjects, on podcasts, and have been extremely normalized nowadays, but they're drugs. And this, to me, conquering lust is being able to actually remove this drug from your life. It's kind of like, it's literally like crack in a way. It's like, you get high for 2 seconds, 30 seconds, and then you're like, wow, why did I do that to myself? But people keep going back to it and going back to it. And um, I think there's some animal studies in regards to, I'm not sure if it's on masturbation or just crack or whatever, but that's another rabbit hole, in the sense of, like, just when you do drugs like this, we'll put that in quotation, drugs, like it leads to your own self-sabotage.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think of the idea that there's the vibration of lust, which doesn't support life? And it's not about getting rid of the lower vibrations, it's about transmuting to their higher version. So maybe lust to eroticism, feeling juicy in your own skin,
Yeah.
feeling sexy, sacred. I'm also thinking about the whole sexual kung fu lineage of classical Taoist esoteric yoga, is like, the instead of calling it masturbation, because masturbation comes from like a Victorian term, which means like self pollution, like to defile oneself. Most guys are defiling themselves when they're touching themselves because they're just shooting out their cum everywhere and they're doing it in a state of shame. In the Tao, they call it self cultivation. So training the penis, because in the Tao, women are sexually, erotically superior to men. And so the Tao says that men have to train through solo cultivation before the more advanced practice of dual cultivation, or like having sex with a female. And so, because it usually, for example, takes the woman longer to climax than the male kind of sometimes will do premature ejaculation and things like that. So you can transmute the lower lusty masturbatory practice into a solo cultivation practice of feeling juicy, and be able to harness your erotic prowess so that you can please your wife more when you find her and marry her. For example, in our classes, we stimulate the penis so that we can learn how to feel that vitality between our loins, and then shunt it up into the body, and then give our extra yang energy into the female, creating an energetic loop. So we do imagine things, but the goal isn't just to get our rocks off. We don't ejaculate. It's to train. It's like a form of like self sensory system development, so that we are the optimal lover for our wife when we find her.
Isn't that called like tantric sex or something? Is
In India, there's a version of it, yeah, called like tantra. In ancient China, they call it, yeah, the Taoist esoteric yoga or sexual kung fu. But yeah, it's like more of like an exercise to like become, to better yourself and to develop your sexual skills.
because with sex there's this exchange of energy. And so
Mm-hmm.
like if your intention is to not release but you're still going to have sex and hold that energy, you're exchanging energy with the woman, and so you're getting energy from her and you're of course giving her some energy yourself. But I feel like if you don't release, you're still holding it in for the most part. I mean, you're not releasing, but from I haven't fully explored it on this journey yet. Like I haven't had sex. I've been fully abstinent, so I haven't been exploring that because I don't have a woman to explore it with. That to me is interesting because like for my whole journey as well, like if I was gonna have sex with a woman sometimes, like I I've done this and I know other people have done this where they'll masturbate so that they can last longer in the future so that they're not just gonna release right away. Which I
Yeah.
find very interesting. Like
Oh, like they'll masturbate to the point of ejaculation, so they've got less prana, so that they can last longer, kind
they
of
just
thing.
they have less in the tank because
Right, right.
there's the term Minuteman or something,
Yes.
that has been coined for why men release early. And I mean it's true. I mean I've like for I'm not gonna lie, like if I was gonna go have sex with someone, I feel like I would release very quickly because I just got a whole lot in the tank,
Hmm.
but I would, love to learn more about retaining that energy and have like if you're gonna have sex, have it be more tantric and like you could still retain it as a man. And I feel like that's a lot with the mind, but also like you're saying, like the pelvic floor muscles and
Yes, and
being able
practicing on your own. It's stimulating yourself with the intention to become a better lover, so that you can last longer and have these skills, and then practicing with a partner. This non-ejaculatory sex is like very powerful when you do it with a partner. um, and it's easier to not come if you've, in my experience, if you have some sort of weekly practice every few days where you're learning how to feel that powerful masculine vitality, that arousal energy. And kind of, we say 1 to 6 is aroused, 7 and 8 is just great, 9 is too aroused, 10 is ejaculation. If you can train your nervous system to really enjoy being at about 70 to 80% arousal in your self pleasure practice, then it's easier to maintain that when you're with a female or with another dude. Um, and then you're actually able to let the woman climax, instead of just being the 1 minute man. So I just think there are ways to self pleasure that are high vibrational, and there's ways to masturbate that are like really low vibrational. And 99.999% of men are using masturbation in a way that doesn't support life.
Yeah.
yeah,
That,
that's interesting. That's definitely to me like the word matter was showing up, and like that's like conquering the flesh in a way for that sexual relationship so that you can perform better. um but what I wanted to add too was the word edging too, where like that's to me what I was doing. Like for my last release it was edging. Like it's like practicing that right before climax where you're like, oh, I'm just gonna feel really good up to this point and then stop. And it's like those smaller dopamine hits before the climax, and then I just lose it. That I lost it, and then that's where the shame, demoralization of like, wow, I released it.
Right.
What am I doing? And so I think there's a balance with that, but people have discussed this on the retention content that I've um, absorbed is edging itself, where you're still falling into that lust, and but what I also wanted to say was there's like that word transcendence and transcending, and so like not getting rid of lust, like you said, well, not getting rid of it, but sending it up, and so I think that has to do with it as well. Um,
Hmm. Oh yeah, and letting the penis be what in Chinese medicine say it's the outermost extension of the heart. So reconnecting the penis and the balls energetically to the heart and to the mind, and we call it the three cauldrons in Chinese medicine: the head, the heart, and the lower dantian, comprised of the anus, sex organ, navel, being more integrated, so that the penis is a tool for like in Sanskrit, the penis is called lingam, which means pillar of light. So just seeing everything is more sacred and higher vibrational than just like I'm going to stroke my hog, my junk, like we're casting all these spells on ourselves. Uh, when really, like the penis is a very sacred. I call it, instead of calling it my private parts, I call them my sacred bits.
Yeah.
And so you go to the gym to work out your biceps so that you can lift up your kids better, or whatever, so that you work your core so that you can be a better runner. It's like you work out your penis and balls so that you can be a better lover for your wife.
Yeah, amen. Well, with you, it's really there's so much nuance, but also you're really talking about intention. What is the intention that you have
Tension.
when you are doing this to yourself? And what you would argue is that highest intention is to be the better lover for the person that you have yet to meet or maybe already have in your life. I think there's
Yes.
no greater intention.
And training yourself to stay at like 70% arousal rather than 90,
Yeah,
and getting like those huge dopamine hits, and then accidentally passing the point of no return and then feeling the shame. It's okay if it happens.
yeah,
Not the biggest deal in the world, but that's like key, is to like really breathe and stay in that parasympathetic state when you're self-pleasuring,
yeah,
and when eventually you're with a partner,
yeah.
so that you can really just train your nervous system to be okay being aroused to 70%, not 98%.
I love it.
a lot of it has to do with the breath, from my
Mm,
understanding. From what
hmm
I've
hmm
consumed on this subject too, is you really have to control your breath.
Yeah,
Uh, Plays a lot into it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
elongating your exhalations, especially.
Yeah, breath is everything. Gents, we've got a wrap. We're pretty much at time, but I want to give Mike one chance just to jump in here to like wrap us up before we ask you guys our final question. And Mike, you got to unmute, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you both coming on and talking about this, and normalizing this subject. You're both very brave. I have a lot of respect for both of you, so thank you. The two things I wrote down, just circling back to that idea of countering repression, I think in the old days, I would think the opposite of repression would be indulgence, and to kind of revel in indulgence as an act of truth. Again, I think from my old immature lens, but now I think the opposite of repression would be reverence. And I think that's what we talked about today. It's having a reverence for this experience and this sensation, these relationships. So thank you for bringing that to the table.
Thank you.
All right.
That makes
Thank
total
you, bud.
sense.
Let's start with you, Justin. What are your non-negotiables, the daily habits you're doing right now to attend your train?
Non-negotiables have been waking up early and journaling, and maybe not every single day, but I've been pretty much every single day opening up a fasting window of just intermittent fasting and remaining coherent, where I'll pretty much try and keep it to 2 to 3 meals per day, depending on listening to you know how I'm feeling in regards to hunger. But keeping that fasting window to remain coherent as much as possible, because I feel that food, you know, has there's like spirits connected to food as well. It's all spiritual, and so if I can remain as coherent as possible to start my day, I feel like I have higher energy. And so, yeah, I've been doing my best to wake up early between 5 and 6 a.m. and just hitting it hard, and taking life by the balls per se, and going after it, and journaling. I'm more new to it. I've only just actually started getting more into journaling, but that's something new to me, and reading the Bible, not as like the Christian and everything else. It's more like following Christ and just learning from the message of the Bible, and what what I can take away from it, because it is a spiritual book with a lot of truth, regardless of how people feel about Christianity and how it could be used as a religious mind control apparatus. To me, there's a lot of power in embracing a relationship with Jesus, and so that's what's coined all of this is my relationship with Christ, and so I can land the plane there on just embodying those couple things.
I love it. Thank you, Justin. Will, what about you?
Beautiful. Well, I was running so much, but then I realized I really wanted to put on more weight and muscle. And so I've been doing 6 days a week at the gym with this app called Ladder. It's so good. Like I used to hate working out at the gym, but now I actually look forward to it in the morning. It's just like 40 minutes at the gym, 6 days a week. My favorite coach on there is Coach Brian. Shout out to Brian. He's just really funny and makes dad jokes all the time. And they tell you exactly what to do. It's like, okay, now you're going to do bicep curls for 20 seconds. Now you're going to rest for 45 seconds. And you can pair it up with your Spotify and just listen to epic music. So it's really fun. So that's something that is a non-negotiable for me. It makes me feel so much better. It's more like mental health than anything. Mm-hmm. And then I do like a gratitude journal. It's called the 5-minute journal. And I have the app version of it now. And you just write 3 things you're grateful for, 3 things that are going to make the day great, like sort of a mantra. And then you just go about your day and you do something similar at night before bed. So those are gratitude and working out are my non-negotiables.
I love it, Will. Justin, where's the best place for the listener to reach out to you, learn more about you?
I'm all over the place. My website to find my documentary, Project Whistleblower, is justintegrity.net. I believe all my socials are linked there, but to find me on Instagram, it's justin.leslie3. On Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, I'm justintegrity_. I got a Substack. I believe it's just substack.com/justinleslie. And yeah, just hit my website. You can find my Rumble channel there too. It's like Just Integrity, I think, or Just Integrity Network. And I got a YouTube channel, Just Integrity Network. And yeah, I've been doing my best to post more. But like I've said on here, I'm in a graduate chiropractic program, and I'm in the thick of I said offline, trauma-based mind control. So, doing my best to stay intertwined in this realm of posting and being an influencer or having, whatever I am, whistleblower, etc.,
Yep.
truth teller. So that's where you guys can find me.
Okay. Yeah. Taking that system down from within. Well done, Justin. Will, what about you?
WillBlunderfield.ca. WillBlunderfield.com is somebody pretending to be me. So don't go with that one. And then my music is on Spotify. I have this track that's gone pretty viral. It's called Godcock. And it's basically 432 hertz with like primal Viking mantras from the runes mixed with like English sayings like, I have a God cock. Women wish to breed with me. My balls produce massive amounts of sperm. And people have said it's really helping them step into their virility and potency. So Will Blunderfield on Spotify. And then if you want to get into the sexual teachings, my OnlyFans, onlyfans.com/Will Blunderfield. Most guys go on there to look at blonde bimbos. But what I'm doing is I'm teaching testicle breathing, microcosmic orbit, bro bonding practices without censorship. And then I can make some money too. So yeah, head over to onlyfans.com/Will Blunderfield to learn how to hold in your semen and transmute it upwards.
Love it. We'll put those links in the show notes. Will, my only pushback, why didn't you do willblunderfield.com?
I wonder if I could. That would be fun.
It'd be fun.
I'll look into that. I'll get back to you.
Fun for one. All right, folks. Links in the show notes. Justin, Leslie, Will Blunderfield, thank you so much for coming back on the Terrain Theory podcast. We love you guys.
Thank you.